Hello. How are you, everybody? I got a fantastic question over Instagram recently, and it kind of sent me on a journey to look at the topic of education expenses in your business. So the question that someone asked me over Instagram was, can a massage therapist deduct massages or body work on their taxes? And I want to just extend that out because this applies to a lot of people. So, for example, can a singer-songwriter deduct concert tickets? Can an artist deduct museum admissions? Lots of people need to do research in their or become educated in their field about what's going on, what competitors are doing, what new modalities and techniques are out there. And so I want to talk to you today about education expenses and touch a little bit on research. Because this can feel a little unclear. And I know that when you are not talking with somebody who understands your field, it can feel very difficult to get the correct information about this. And the reason that is so particularly so is in the general population, a massage is absolutely not deductible. Right? If you're Tom Brady and you are getting a massage for your knee to make sure that you're limber enough to play your game, that is absolutely a business expense, but it's very context dependent. Okay. So it really depends on what the norms are in your field. Plus, you have to take into account some specific IRS rules before you apply it to generally. Okay. So let's jump in. First, a little side note. You probably know that I have a series of deductions guides, mostly for people in creative fields and creative online businesses. There's 6 versions at the moment, but I am in my annual review process where I am updating them for the next tax year 2024. Don't worry, it's a long way off. And I've decided, because there's so many people in my audience who are healers, therapists, yogis, body workers, people in kind of this spiritual space, that I wanted to make a guide for you. So I have been soliciting questions about, from therapists, yogis, body workers, etc., for wellness practitioners to just see what questions you have and to try to incorporate those questions into a wellness practitioner deductions guide. So I've been working on that. And of course, the person who sent me a message, if massages are deductible for a masseuse, that was one of the questions I got related to that. So if you still have any questions about this, definitely do send me a DM on Instagram at Sunlight Tax. Let me know if there's something you're spending money on in your practice that you feel uncertain about, or you're not sure where to deduct it, if it's deductible, etc. There's still a little bit of time, and I would love to hear from you. Okay, so let's talk about education and research expenses for you. So education is, generally speaking, deductible, but only if it adds value to your business or improves or maintains necessary skills. Okay, so that is your metric. All right. So using the case of a massage therapist, then there are some business purposes for which you could deduct a massage. For example, if you are going to be giving referrals to another masseuse for a different kind of therapy, you could go and get a massage there so that you feel fully aware of what how their practice operates and you understand their sort of skill set, right? That would be research, that is education, that would be deductible. Likewise, if you wanted to check out a competitor, that would be deductible. If you wanted to learn about a new modality, there's a new kind of technique and some practitioner is offering it, that would be considered deductible. Now, I do want to be very careful and say that there's some degree of massage work that you might get as a masseuse that is still going to be personal. So what I want to caution you about is you need to make sure you have a genuine business purpose. If you are getting massages the way I get massages, which is for pleasure, for relaxation, for an injury, that is personal and it is not business deductible. So in general, I want to extend out this idea to other fields. So for example, the singer-songwriter deducting concert tickets. Now, reasonably, some of that singer-songwriter's concert attendance is going to be competitor research. Like, how does this person do their set design? How does this, maybe there are other elements that you want to check out. Perhaps you are considering doing a collaboration with another musician and you want to see them play. You want to see them on stage. You want to see what their audience is like. Those would be completely valid reasons to deduct those concert tickets. But sometimes you're still going to be going and seeing music for pleasure. Presumably, if you're in that field, you love it. And so you do derive pleasure from it. So in the example of a singer deducting concert tickets, a masseur deducting massages, an artist deducting museum admissions, what I want you to keep in mind is the genuine business purpose of it. And recognize that at times you will still be doing that thing for pleasure, for personal purpose. And so the rule I want you to keep in mind is do not ever deduct 100% of that item, okay? Be scrupulous and honest about the business purpose behind what you're doing. And when it's genuinely personal, don't lump it in with all the other stuff and call it deductible, okay? I do want to just give you a warning that the IRS, if they audit this, when they see 100% of expenses taken in a category that they clearly know there's going to be some element of personal pleasure, they tend to believe that you have lied on other areas of your tax return, and it puts you in a very unpleasant position with them. So it's really important to be scrupulous, to be honest, and to only try to deduct the business portion of things, not the full amount if some of it is genuinely for pleasure. This principle applies in many other areas of the tax code. For example, in business mileage, when you're using your personal vehicle, as most small businesses and freelancers do, we don't have a dedicated business car that we only use for business. The IRS is very well aware that you're using that car occasionally for business, but also occasionally for personal things, groceries, picking up your kids, going to meet a friend, right? And so one of the elements of business mileage tracking, for example, is you have to actually state the total number of miles you drove for the year and then the business miles. And what you're doing when you make that statement is you're saying the business miles is a subset of the total miles. It's not equal to the total miles. If those two numbers are equal on your tax return, if you're saying my business miles are the same as my total miles for the year, you are automatically going to get flagged on your tax return, because I could tell you personally, and the IRS most certainly is aware of this, you use that car for other stuff. Like you get groceries at some point. So don't get greedy. That's the takeaway here. Do not take 100%. Just be scrupulous about what your business purpose actually is and only try to deduct those items. All right. Now, research is a little bit different. So education is definitely deductible as an expense. And as I said before, just to repeat, education is deductible if it adds value to your business or improves or maintains necessary skills, okay? And, for that, it could be courses, it could be coaching, it could be seminars, but notice that these are pretty specific. It's not vague and open-ended. That is not generally going to be deductible, right? A seminar, a course, a coaching session, these things will be deductible if they're improving or maintaining your necessary skills. Now, research is something I want to really caution you on. This episode is not a complete discussion of research, and so there are more rules I want to warn you about, but research expenses I want you to be very careful about. In general, you're not allowed to take a research expense basically almost at all. And I was just reading through the IRS website, and I want to caution you that in the research and development expense deduction category, after 2021, you are no longer allowed to even take a research expense all at one time. You're only allowed to take it if it is, you have to charge the research expense to a separate specified research or experimental capital account. And I just think if you're listening to this podcast, the chances that you're actually doing that are very small, very, very small. So in general, I want you to beware of research and not consider it expensible at all. Research and experimental costs are generally only for a product. And I want you to understand that there is an exception to deductible research expenses. And listen to what this is. Costs not included in research and experimental expenditures do not include expenses for any of the following activities. I'm reading directly off the IRS website here, by the way. Research in connection with literary, historical, or similar projects. So writers, artists, musicians, I'm afraid that's us. The IRS is saying that research in connection with literary, historical, or similar projects is not deductible. And I will tell you from experience that I have seen a lot of writers get into hot water over this because, sure, I want to write a novel about the south of Italy and I want to go spend a lot of time in Sardinia just to do, quote, research. Well, feel free to go do your research, right? Just don't try to deduct it. It's not deductible. Research, most especially for a novel, for example. A lot of us want to go to a beautiful place and set our novel in a gorgeous, gorgeous location. That is simply not a deductible expense. I want to warn you against taking it. And I have seen with my own eyes audits happen over that category. Okay. It's very easy to rack up a lot of expense traveling for a long time to a beautiful place. And to the IRS, it just frankly looks like a vacation. Surely it's one of the pleasures of the work that you do, but just do not try to deduct it. Okay. So I'm sorry that that's some bad news for you, writers especially. And I say this because I am about to embark on writing my book. I have just finished my book proposal and I'm actually getting started already with the book writing. And I've got research to do, although I will tell you, my research is not centering in Southern Italy. My research centers on the Internal Revenue Code. So it's quite a bit more specific and quite a bit less fun. So I hope you, at the very least, can appreciate that I'm doing some really, really boring reading to try and bring you useful information with a little bit of humor and grace. All right. So I hope that has been helpful for you. Wellness practitioners, yogis, masseurs, healers. I have a new guide coming for you. It may or may not be out. Be a little ambitious for it to be out when this podcast episode drops. It might be, but feel free to tell me your deduction questions about your work. If you are a wellness practitioner, you can DM me at Sunlight Tax. And if I have not yet published that guide, I will incorporate your question into the guide. When the guide is available, if you're listening to this podcast in the future, it will be at sunlighttax.com/deductions guide. And you will see a link to the one for wellness practitioners. The direct link to that will be sunlighttax.com/wellness guide. It may just be a work in progress page today if you're listening on the day that the episode drops. But that's where you'll find the guide ultimately. And for those of you who are performers, writers, visual artists, makers, online business owners, you already have a dedicated guide and you can get it at sunlighttax.com/deductions guide. And then the last thing I want to mention, if you are one of the listeners who listens right away when the podcast drops, I am tomorrow, Wednesday, Valentine's Day, the 14th, I am offering a free masterclass. It's called Make Taxes Easier and Stash an Extra 130K in Your Savings. This is my classic masterclass. I'm going to do the math about compound interest and show you what tax advantage savings really does for you. It's a lot more than you think. And I'm also going to be giving you some tips for staying organized this tax season. So that class is free as always. It's 1 hour at noon Eastern time, 9 o'clock West Coast time. It's free, but the seats are limited and you have to register. So you can register at go.sunlighttax.com/free. That's go.sunlighttax.com/free. And the class is tomorrow. As long as you're registered before noon East Coast time, you will get the reminders and you'll be able to join. So I hope to see you in class tomorrow. I hope you download my deductions guide. And for those of you who are in the wellness practitioner space, therapists, healer, yogis, etc., nurses, doulas, definitely hit me up. Send me a DM on Instagram if you've got any questions about things you spend money in your practice that you would like an answer to. All right. Thank you so much for listening, all of you. I will see you next week. Bye. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, be sure to like, leave a comment, and subscribe to my channel. I'm so grateful for that. This video is for education and entertainment only. Nothing in this episode should be taken as individual tax or financial advice. You can find all the tools, books, and links I reference at sunlighttax.com/podcast.